right, I'd like to go ahead and open up the Tuesday, August 6, 2019 Warrenton Board of Alderman meeting. If you would, please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance with us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next will be an introduction, unless you want me to do it.
Mayor and Board, I'd like to introduce you Dean Smith. Started August 5th at $14.50 an hour.
Welcome aboard, Dean. Next item will be the consent agenda.
We got the open and executive session minutes from 7/16/2019. The rock bid awarded to Hasseniager Trucking. The best bid, ready mix concrete bid, awarded to Schrader Concrete. The only bid. The fuel bid was awarded to Thaley for the unleaded fuel and Warrenton Oil for diesel. The sewer lift station pump bid awarded to Municipal Equipment Company in the amount of $19,351.18 and ECC in the amount of $29,626. The low bid budget amount was $55,000, and then a tandem dump truck with spreader and plow bid was a state contract from International Truck and Equipment in the amount of $157,538.53, and the budget amount for that was $160,000.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, seconded by Alderman Dyer. I'll vote.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey,
Abstain.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Abstain.
Alderman Miller.
Yes.
The item passes with 4 approvals and 2 abstaining. Next will be hearing from the public. If you have anything you'd like to discuss, we ask that you please come to the podium, state your name, and we'll give you 5 minutes to speak. Not seeing anybody, we'll move on. Next will be the Board of Alderman comments. Not seeing any, we'll move on to the mayor's comments. So today I was able to take some time out this morning and actually speak to the crew that's doing the sidewalk out on Main Street. And if you haven't had a chance to stop and look, it's kind of cool how it's coming together. A lot of what they're doing, they said that it has been kind of tricky to be able to do it all, but it's coming along pretty well, and I think I like what I see so far. So I just recommend for everybody to stop by and take a look at it. They're really working hard on it, and I think it'll be really neat when it's done and ADA compliant, which will be real nice. Also, as several aldermen have commented, tonight is National Night Out, so Truesdale is hosting that, and they've got a pretty good, neat little setup over there. I believe they're going to have live music, and of course they'll have any emergency crews out there, fire, police, like ambulance. I'm not sure who else will be out there, but it's kind of nice to stop by and show support for all them. So after the meeting, please go over and encourage them. All I've got. So next we'll have Wreaths Across America. I believe Miss Romaker or Miss Thorne. I'm sorry. We discussed this. I apologize.
Ms. Romaker came and visited with me, and when we decided to put this on the agenda, I promised her that I would speak about it, and then you all could ask her questions that you might have at the end. So Wreaths Across America is a national organization. They do have a website, which is fantastic. I did take a look at that. There's a lot of really good information there just about this organization and what all some of the amazing things that they do across our country. Ms. Romaker was seeking a sponsorship by the city, not a monetary sponsorship, but support of this worthy project, both with assistance, with manpower, and utilizing our capabilities to advertise and get the word out there so that people are aware of what this project does and the way that they get sponsors who will help to sponsor either a wreath specifically for a veteran or just a wreath in general that can be placed at a veteran's grave. So if you look at their website, it provides those opportunities for sponsorship, as well as if someone wants to volunteer their time to assist, those opportunities are there as well. Their goal is to place wreaths on the graves of all the veterans in our Warrenton City Cemetery this year. On December 14th, when they have their ceremony, I think they've been extremely successful at Holy Rosary Cemetery, and now Andrea wants to move over and do the same thing at our Warrenton City Cemetery. So she's seeking support for that. On December 14th, they have the cemeteries all across the country, which was kind of amazing to look at some of the pictures that they have on their website of those ceremonies. But they will have a ceremony first at the Tribute to Veterans Memorial location. That will honor all of the branches of service, and then they'll move over to our Warrenton City Cemetery, have a brief ceremony there, and then we'll have volunteers who will then place these wreaths at the grave of all the volunteers with the say their name out loud being part of that, when they'll speak out loud the name of each of those veterans. It's quite an undertaking to get this all put together, and their estimate is 700 veteran graves. Although Brandy told me this evening they've started putting the list together. Melody's working with Mark on that, and just in one section they had over 100 veterans. So that number may grow once they get the list all together. So it's a big undertaking. As I said, wreaths are sponsored through donation, either to specific veteran or to just the project in general. They're going to have several opportunities to make the public aware. I think she's got some things planned at Holy Rosary Church on a couple of occasions, at other locations in town, to get the word out there so that people have those opportunities to sponsor. And we've offered a booth at the Fall Festival to be set up so that they can have someone there and hopefully get some involvement and some sponsorship through that. So the ask is for the city to formally sponsor this program and this effort for our Warrenton City Cemetery, and to have your support in that to get this project moved forward. Anything you'd like to add? What did I miss?
I think you got it all.
Hey.
The table. Just
My wife and I were involved in it last year as volunteers and placed wreaths, and it was really impressive when you got finished and walked down to the front of the cemetery and looked up and saw. It's really neat, and we talked then about getting the city involved and doing it on the scale of the Warrenton Cemetery, and we knew it'd be a big. I think Andrea knew at the time that it would be a bigger project, being that big of a cemetery. But I think, I'm more than willing to volunteer out there too. I think, it brings people together at a great time of the year, and with things that are happening in our country right now, I think more than ever we need to do things like this to bring people more together instead of the divisiveness that's going on. So I'm all in on it. I don't know about the rest of them. I'm all in.
I hate to ask this because I know that was part of the deal, but they can't hear you whenever you give responses. So if you could come to the front, because this only tracks through the audio. I know you don't want to, but I'd really appreciate that. That way we just educate more people when they do.
They won't
watch
bite you.
these. I just, actually, the reason why I'm calling you up here is I want everybody to be fully educated on it, so they know exactly.
Right here?
I know I, for one, that's what I was doing while she was talking, was type it into my calendar, so it's marked
Okay,
off,
yes.
so. it'll
December 14th, and what we're going to do is, the Warrenton Fire Department, they come out to the new Veterans Memorial at 9 a.m., and we have the color guard, and they're out there, and the, let's see, the color guard and our rifle guard, they're all out there, and we do a ceremony, and we place a wreath at each of the branches of service. I usually speak a little bit, say a few little things. We have taps. We'll have the taps will be played, and they'll also get a 21 gun salute there also. And then at 11 a.m. Here in Missouri, because we're on Central Time, it's 12 o'clock Eastern Time, and then it goes down, but we're all at the same time visiting cemeteries and laying the wreaths. So, and the process is, like she said, we say their names out loud. So each volunteer will take a wreath, and you go to a grave, and before you lay that wreath down, you say that veteran's name out loud. And if you like to say a little prayer, you can do that too. That's what I do. So then you just lay the wreath down and you move on to the next one. So we also have grave specifics. So a grave specific wreath, that means that you want to lay it yourself. So we have a list. So when you're fundraising for the $15, each wreath is $15. You can say, would you like a volunteer to lay the wreath? Or would you like to do it yourself? And a lot of them will say, I'd like to do it myself. So they go on the grave specifics. So on that day, after we finish our ceremony up here by Denny's at the Veterans Memorial, then we will have volunteers at the Holy Rosary Cemetery and volunteers at the Warrenton Cemetery. And there's two sections, and then they'll be clearly marked grave specifics and volunteers. So the grave specific people, they know to go to those big boxes and wait, and then the other ones, our volunteers will be over at the other boxes. So a day or two before all of this happens, I need volunteers to walk the cemetery because we have to flag each grave. So a grave is going to have a red flag or a blue flag. If it's a red flag, that means stop, don't lay a wreath down. That's a grave specific and somebody's going to come and do it. If it's a blue flag, that's when you go ahead and you lay a wreath down and say their name out loud. So that's how we do it. Now, sometimes things happen, and the grave specifics, the people don't show up. You know, they got sick or anything, or the weather's not good, because if it's snowing, sleeting, raining, or anything, we're out there. So you have to make sure you dress appropriately, because when 11 a.m. hits, nationwide, everyone's laying wreaths at the same time. So it's not like, oh, we can do it a couple hours later. We have to do it right then and there. So a lot of people can't make it out, and we go ahead, and I have a couple of people that go to all the graves and make sure, even the red ones, if a red one doesn't have one, we're going to lay one down, because that just means somebody, you know. So Holy Rosary last year did over 100 over what I asked for. So what happened was, we all did Holy Rosary, and then we went over to Lipstock.
Yeah.
We went to Lipstack, and all the veterans got one there. And then we went over to Warrenton City Cemetery, and they have a mass grave over there with a lot of veterans. So we made sure we laid one there, and then a couple other ones that were around. So that's what we did. So we want to do it again, you know. I think all the veterans need to be recognized at that time of the year, and it's only $15. So you would be purchasing one grave specific, or
get one for a soldier, a veteran that died 200 years ago, probably doesn't have anybody else alive to even, recognize them. So I just think it's a really nice thing, and I hope that we can get some support. And through your own businesses, I mean, wherever y'all work, you can go, like if you worked at Kroger, well, they're not there. But like another place, if you're working, just say, would y'all like to sponsor some? You know what I mean? So,
So we can help, if we need to, or would like to help fundraise, we just contact you?
yeah, if you want to sit outside anywhere. But y'all have a thing coming up in the city, a fall fest, and she offered a spot for me, so I'm going to be there. So, and there's going to be a lot of people there, I hope. So, and I've got the banners, I've got everything that they need. So, and of course, I'm sitting outside of Holy Rosary a lot. So, and I think Mike's going to sign up, do that for me one night too.
It's called being voluntold.
So,
I'm just saying.
but yeah, so I just need lots of, the word needs to get out there. Oh, and you can also go to the website and you can punch in. You can do it all online. You don't have to give me $15. You can go online and you can search your cemetery. So just put City of Warrenton, Missouri, and the page will pop up and it'll say sponsor a wreath here. So you just click on it. And I get the paperwork is sent to me. So, I mean, it's really easier online. But if you have to write a check, you have to write it out to Wreaths Across America. You don't write it to any personal person. It goes to Wreaths Across America. But it's a lot easier online. It's very simple. You can pull up Holy Rosary or City of Warrenton Cemetery, and each page will pop up. So, and just tell your friends about that and share it on social media. There's Instagram, there's Facebook, and I don't know, that's the only two I know. But there's a lot of response on those too. So, and if y'all have a website, don't you? Didn't the city have something? Put a little blurb in there about Wreaths Across America. Just getting the word out there.
Other questions?
Very
I'll
good
entertain a
project.
motion to support the Wreaths Across America.
So moved. Second.
With Alderman Shelby and seconded by Alderman Miller. Roll call vote.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Alderman Harvey?
Yes.
Alderman Dyer?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
All right. Thank
See
you.
what's
Good job, kid.
coming up.
All right. And I'll give you all the paperwork so you can give it to them. They're just like
Oh,
little
thank you.
forms to be easier.
Okay.
And Mike, I'll give you some too. And you can just pass them around and get everybody to sign up.
Always nice to be voluntold.
Voluntold, yes.
Yeah, who are you? Oh, okay.
Next, we'll have record parking on private property with Neil Diekman. If you would, please come to the podium.
Yes, sir. I was given ordinances by the city ordinance officer. I was given 2 of the 4 parts of the ordinance. I have, for 15 years, not had a problem parking my big heavy tow truck in the city limits because I park it on private property in my driveway. And they're giving me the ordinance saying I don't need to be doing that anymore. I guess the neighbors don't like it, or I'm tearing up the road, or both. But I found in section C of the commercial vehicle ordinances, where it says if you park it on private property, not in the street, then you're exempt from this, leaving your place of residence. I just wanted to get thoughts on this, kind of try to put it to bed.
What you were notified about was the street from which your private residence leaves does not allow vehicles over 24,000, I believe it's 24,000 pounds to be driven on that road. It's not that you park it on private property, okay? It's that you're driving it on a street that's not built to handle regular commercial size traffic on that particular road. And I think when we did the research, it's been posted since '86, I think was when this came up, and I know that they had looked at the damage done to the street and determined that yes, it is tearing up the street that's there. My understanding is they came out there to talk to you about it. You've not received a citation or anything like that, correct?
I have not received a citation yet. I talked with a few people and said I was interested in coming here and trying to get this figured out.
Yeah, so what I would suggest, unless the board is inclined to change the weight limit on the street, and staff has verified that it has beat up the street and there is maintenance, I think you recognize it as well, Neil.
Yes.
That it's too heavy for that type of style of street or that base. Unless you guys want to suggest that we reconsider this ordinance, which I think is validated by the fact, Neil's statement. My recommendation would be that you, the board and the mayor, consider letting staff try to work with Mr. Diekman on it. And if ultimately it does result in a citation because he's driving the vehicle on a street that can't handle it, that you guys allow me to work with him as a prosecutor in municipal court or to work with the municipal judge.
Anybody have any questions or objections to what Counselor has recommended? Go ahead.
And I'm not very good at legal stuff, but in the commercial vehicle parking, if you go to table, what is it, ID or IX-C, I think I provided that with getting on the agenda. I faxed it into someone.
Good, got it.
Where it shows the personal property. I understand the weight limit on the street, but went through this on Roosevelt also when I lived there. And I'm not trying to cost the city more money. That's not the objective of it. I'm trying to perform a service, and a lot of times that thing is considered an emergency vehicle. Unfortunately, it's a very heavy one, where if I'm not allowed to keep it at home, I have to park it at Forestdale, which is going to add probably 45 minutes to any response time out here, of me having to go from the house to the shop, switch vehicles, and bring it back.
That was going to be my question, Neil. Are you required to bring it home, or is that basically the reason you bring it home is for response time?
Response time for the state patrol, for fire departments. I was hoping to have like Chief McKnight and Chief Hayslip here this evening, but they're busy this evening, to have their thoughts on it. And I was hoping to have Wentzville, a few of the deputy chiefs from there, their opinion on it, since they'll call me direct to go help with someone's trapped underneath something, to pick up a truck off of a car, pull a cab. We had one, it was in 2014, a tractor trailer laid over out here in front of the mall, on its roof, and I'm on the fire department also here in town, so I heard it go out on the fire pager, responded immediately, and actually, as soon as they got the door popped off, I'm lifting the truck up to release the pressure off the cab to get the guy out. Unfortunately, it had broke his neck, so it was a bad day anyway. But there's quite a few times, I'm not saying every day, but there is quite a few times that I work very closely with the fire department and emergency services, the police, especially when it's snowing and you've got trucks up here who can't get up the ramp or spun out blocking the highway. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar. About 2 months ago, there was one little box truck flipped over out here, middle of 70, had it shut down. I was at the shop that day, so it was during the day.
So Neil, you can't just park your truck at the commuter lot
I
or
will-
somewhere else in town?
The commuter lot is not licensed. You can't have anything over 6 tons parked in the commuter lot.
There's nowhere else in town that you could park your truck?
There's nowhere else in town that I am going to park it with the amount of money that's tied up in that thing and the amount of tools and all that I have in it, unless it would be in a secured building somewhere.
Have you checked with anyone in town that might have, property that's fenced in, that you might be able to park it there?
There's 1 or 2 people like JBC over in Truesdale that I would feel comfortable there, because we're talking about a $750,000 truck, and I've probably got $15,000 worth of my own tools.
Oh, I don't doubt that at all, but
Um,
it seems like a solution might be saving the street and appeasing the neighbors just by moving the truck to an alternative
I understand that,
parking spot.
and I've spoke to both neighbors. Actually, the bed and breakfast has stopped me when I'm taking the trash up. They're not real worried about this truck anymore as far as noise. My last truck was very noisy. Very noisy. I would rumble windows 2 blocks away with it.
That was the one on Roosevelt, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. And I actually put a muffler on it before I moved over here, but it would still do it. Everyone knew in town when I got off the highway in the evening. But this truck is very quiet, but it's very heavy. Approximately 2 years ago, I can't remember, I think, board director guy.
Yep.
You fixed half of the street.
The part that was breaking up, yeah.
Yes, and I mean there was approximately 6 to 8 inch ruts that I'd made in it. That street, I'm not going to deny, was not made for a truck like that. It's got 1.5 inches of asphalt on it and has no base under it. The half that you all replaced, you dug it down, you put shot rock, and have you been out there lately?
Yeah, it's got a little breakage, but not like it was.
The part you did recently and put the base under, there's very, very minimal damage to. The front part of the street, which wasn't that bad when you did that, my half of the street, I guess I would say, past the bed and breakfast, it was in good shape then still. But since then, and as wet as this year has been, it's starting to pump mud and whatever up through the street. And another reason why I wanted to come in here and check on this is because I actually have a shed bought, deposit down on a shed, about halfway through paying for it, to put on the end of my property where I'd still be backing straight in to put the truck in. And if I'm not going to be allowed to keep the truck because of the street and problems with city or ordinances or whatever, then obviously I either need to, well, I don't need to put a $70,000 shed there, and I need to start looking for a new job or somewhere else to live.
What is Oak Street have a 24,000,
Oak Street does not have a weight limit.
did not have a weight limit? I
No.
don't remember, I couldn't remember. I know Walton does, and I thought that was,
I do not believe Walton has a weight limit.
Oh, yes,
certain
it does.
parts of it. From Morgan Street down does not because of Binkley.
Yeah, on that end of it, I know there is.
Right.
'Cause,
Because there used to be a guy that parked his truck in front of his house over there, basically in the street.
we had some of the Binkley trucks coming down there and
Yes.
started to affect the streets, so that was one of the reasons that.
Now, Oak Street, you can't hardly tell I'm on Oak Street. And, I mean, the trash trucks, they're not quite as heavy as me, but they still are 54,000. I understand the fire engine, it's an emergency vehicle. The single axle fire engine they run every day weighs 52,000 pounds on a single axle. There's 21,000 on the steer and just short of 22 on a single rear drive, or excuse me, 32,000 on a single rear drive axle. Granted, it's exempt because it's an emergency vehicle, where my vehicle is for hire. It just depends on who's calling as to whether it's for hire or considered an emergency vehicle, if that makes any sense.
But the fact still is the streets are being
Street is being tore up.
damaged, yeah, so.
Get a base put under it and double lay paved like they did in the other section of it. And unfortunately, they did on Roosevelt too. I'm not sure if you were around for that. That's been a few years ago. I want to say about 6 to 7. They tore out a large section of Roosevelt, which it gets a lot of bus traffic. Not near as heavy as me, but it does get a lot of bus traffic and Ameren traffic. That road does have the 24,000 pound sign on it. I didn't know, and unfortunately I did not bring the printout of section C of that, or how this all ties together as far as being exempt when leaving or returning to my residence.
I don't think this
That's
is,
that's a different section of code that you're talking about there.
Yes.
It's actually you're talking about operating a residential zoning district, which does give you the exemption for 24,000. This is under table 9D, weight restrictions, and there is no exemption for going to or from your house. And it says, when signs are erected, no person shall operate a commercial motor vehicle of gross weight greater than 24, except as provided under 340.240, the emergency vehicle exception. Or it's emergency vehicles, and there was one more thing that was an exception. I can't remember now. Upon any street or part of any street except the following streets. So
I could make comment. This sounds like something we're not going to be able to, I think, decide tonight. But what going forward, you mentioned earlier, Chris, to work with him, and I don't know, maybe bringing Guy in it with the city. I mean, what?
Well, I think Alderman Shill Harvey, the road, as Neil has expressed and been very upfront about it, is getting torn up, and we're putting money into maintenance on it. And that vehicle is tearing the road up, and the neighbors are complaining because the road is being torn up. I mean, basically the way I understand how this has come in front of it is the code officer went out to, we try to make personal contact at all times, anytime we have a complaint. Code officer has been out there multiple times to try to speak with Neil, and I'm sure you're busy, but he's spoken with your wife a couple of times, has never had the opportunity, but he's apparently been back a couple of times.
Yes, and I have talked to him on the phone.
Yeah, but
and I have left 2 more messages with him
to try to basically educate him on it and say, hey, this is a weight limit, because obviously it's a slippery slope for us as a city, because we have this problem. We just passed some additional ordinances about commercial vehicles, and we've been, clamping down on the commercial vehicle enforcement on residential streets. We have to be consistent throughout the whole city. This is a complaint-driven one from some of the neighbors. My thought would be to allow city staff to try to work with them to maybe even hear their other places, and we'll give him plenty of time to work with it. But ultimately, you guys have to change the ordinance if you want us to change the ordinance. Unless you guys change the ordinance, we're going to move forward with continuing to try to communicate with them and enforcement. And if you guys want to consider changing the ordinance, that's fine at a later time. But based on Alderman Shell Harvey, based on prior direction, we're really trying to make sure that we're protecting our roads and keeping the commercial vehicles off the residential streets.
No, I agree, because streets are a big expense when we go to repair and trying to bring them, so.
Yes, and sorry.
No, go ahead, I'm finished.
One comment I'd like to make, talking with my neighbors, I guess probably should have brought them in, but I know one of them's working. Unfortunately, yes, I'm tearing up the street. Their thoughts to me on it, I'm not sure whoever else, obviously, but when I speak with them, they want the street fixed. Unfortunately, like I said, it's me tearing up the street, ultimately, because my truck weighs 70,000 pounds. So I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention and try to come up with a solution. Once again, that I have a building bought, figuring on putting there, and if I'm not allowed to have the truck, then I need to figure out something else.
I'm inclined to follow Counselor's suggestion that they work with staff and Mr. Neal to try to come up with an alternate solution. And then we'll visit it once we your recommendation.
Is there anyone opposed to tabling it and allowing city employees to work with Mr. Diekman on this?
I want to just be clear, Mayor,
Sure.
because it's my staff ultimately who's going to be involved. I don't see a resolution that the city staff can come to unless you all are willing to change the code. Because there's no way that we can circumvent what the code says to come to a solution other than maybe trying to help find a different location to park the vehicle. There's really not a solution that city staff can come to. So I don't want to mislead you. I don't want to put my staff in a situation of trying to do something that is in opposition to the code, because there is no solution short of changing the code to allow something over 24,000 pounds on that street.
And even at that, I believe, from what I'm hearing from the aldermen, I think there's going to be some research done before, if we even were to approach changing the code. We'd want more input and information on that. Am I not correct?
Well, I don't know why we want to change the codes. I mean, we just passed an ordinance. Why do we want to put additional time into changing an ordinance that we just passed?
I don't want to leave Mr. Dickman in a situation with a building that he continues to move toward purchasing when the only solution is a change to code that it really doesn't sound like the majority of you are willing to consider.
Or do I, and I still think the best thing for you, Neil, might be to make contact with, try to find some other place to park the vehicle within our community. There may be some secure site that would allow you to do that, but I don't think as a board we can say that we would give you some exemption to continue to damage our street.
Okay. Or would there be any way to get the 24,000 removed off of the street? Probably not, because it's considered a residential street.
Which would entail we'd have to change the ordinance.
Okay. I'm here just to not be a thorn, just
No.
try to get it figured out,
Well,
because
we
I'm not gonna,
understand. Yeah.
spend a bunch of money at a place that I ultimately can't be at. I was planning on building at Roosevelt, and that didn't happen because I changed locations. Because, and Roosevelt did have a 24,000 sign on it as well, so.
there some consideration for changing the definition of a emergency vehicle? I mean, because he's pointed out that his vehicle is used vehicle. Other cities, also that have a broader definition?
I think Neil did a good job of explain. Obviously, he has a lot of contact with emergency vehicles, of kind of delineating how Missouri statute delineates it. You know, as there's for hire on call, and there are times he's an emergency vehicle if he's responding on a call out from law enforcement. I don't. The issue that ultimately I think the board has to deal with is, and like I said, Neil's been very upfront. I mean, this is tearing up the street. So either if you want ultimately to allow it to be done, we have to rebuild the street for daily driving of a 70,000-pound vehicle, which is another consideration of expense. I mean, if it wasn't tearing up the street as bad it is. I mean, Neil, he's right. It's mush under there. So that's really the issue. I mean, we even if we change the definition to say he's always an emergency vehicle and allow him to drive it to and from his house, there's a big expense we have to invest to allow this so that the street remains safe. But yeah, we can change it. I think we probably could to expand that definition. It may be a little bit different than what state statute is, which can create some inconsistencies. But yes, Alderman Ock, we can change it.
But it could not
But the
be just
ultimate
more.
thing is if we change it, it's still not changing the fact that it's a heavier vehicle than what the street allows. We're still gonna have damage to the vehicle no matter how much we change, if it's an emergency vehicle or not. We're still gonna have to replace the street, if that's the case.
Yeah, and I think Neil made that point as well.
Yes. Either way, right now, the street needs repaired, period. And whether my truck's parked there or not, my two neighbors are not going to get off of you because the damage is already there. And have made the comments to me, unfortunately they're not here, that there is quite a few streets in town, a little more traffic than ours, that got repaved, that probably in better shape than what our street is. But, and another comment I'd like to make is that I've discussed to Mr. Guy, or brought up a while ago, is I know this has been brought up in board meetings before, and at that time with that board, it was, I guess, decided to fix the street, as did on Roosevelt, as did on the other half of Thurman, the dead end part of Thurman. Because, I mean, could have just done an overlay and run me out of there then. Instead, you put a hell of a base on it and built a good street. So that's my, I guess, final comment on that.
Appreciate you coming in to discuss it. I know that. I don't think I'm going to be able to the issue favorably for you. Yeah. My opinion.
And fine, and I understand that as a city and, taxpayer money. Unfortunately, that truck's not registered in the city where the city gets taxpayer money. It is registered in Warren County where they do get some money, but it's all different entities, and I understand that part of it. I'm just trying to figure out what I need to do to move forward. Whether I need to move or find a new place of employment.
It's it's a difficult situation, but I think, or at least I believe, we need to stick with our guns at 24,000 pounds. And I mean, it comes down to tearing up the street. You know, you can massage it all we want to, but it still comes down to the fact that the streets being torn up. So that's where I stand.
That's where I'm at.
Motion on it, or?
I think we can have.
Oh. Ultimately, it sounds like a lot of the aldermen are not wanting to move forward with changing the way down the street.
Okay.
So, appreciate you coming up and voicing your opinion and giving us the education on what your vehicle is.
Thank you.
You, Neil.
All right, next we'll hear from City Administrator Terry Thorne.
My first item for you this evening is I am proud to say that in your Dropbox, you had the audit for the Greater Warren County Economic Development Commission for their period that ended June 2018. This was one of the requirements, if you recall, for the city becoming a member of that group. So they have fulfilled this requirement. Brady and I did attend a meeting that they held last Tuesday. It was very informative. We learned a great deal at that meeting that we did not know. And they do have some interesting projects that they are involved with and working toward, some of which will significantly impact the city, you know, if they come to fruition. So it was definitely worth attending that meeting and gaining that information. So their audit is here. I can provide you highlights if you like. They're on a cash basis of accounting, which their auditors did point out is not typically GAAP acceptable, but they're a very small entity. They don't have a lot of open receivables, so it works for them, and they really don't have staff, so it's all of those people who are members who are involved. Their total cash receipts were $160,609 for the period that ended June 30th. 28% of that, or $45,000, comes from the public sector. So us, the Warren County, all of the cities, and other public entities that are involved. Their total cash disbursements were $180,389, of which $117,375 was professional and management fees. I'm sure that a good part of this is Mark Snelson that Steve Etcher works for, so he prepares all the packets and responds to all of the inquiries. There's a great deal of work for this organization. $45,839 was principal on the loan, and the loan that they have is for the railroad spur location and equipment that they're making payments on. So net, they spent $19,780 more last year than what they brought in, which they spent out of available cash that was there at the beginning of their year. Cash at the end of the year that they had was $33,538. So they still had some cash in the bank at the end of the year. They've started now in July sending out the invoices for their new fiscal year. We received an invoice, and I did send to Peggy Rogers, their president, the agreement that we had last year, asking if that be re-signed, since we can't pay anything unless we have a service agreement. So that's in the works, and we will then make our payment for this year, along with all these others who were involved. There were no disclosures on their financial statements, so nothing that the auditors found of concern, other than a disclosure that they actually hired, as part of the audit, the Bot Steel Company prepared their financial statement. because they don't have a staff with anyone with the expertise to actually prepare a financial statement. So that just became part of the audit, and that has to be disclosed. So that was really the only disclosure that they had. They are prepared this year again to get an audit at the end of their fiscal year period to satisfy our requirement. So it seems to be going well, and they seem to have a lot that's out there in the works.
Things proceed the way we think they would, we will become members.
We are currently members for
We
this
are
past
currently.
year. It's just that our requirement was that at the end of the fiscal year, they had to provide us with an audit, which they agreed to. So by providing this, they've now met all of the requirements from the prior year, so we're all set to move forward. And we did budget in our budget this year to continue to be members of this
Have we
group.
given them money yet?
No, we have to have the signed service agreement. And so as soon as they get that signed, which I'm sure takes an action of their board, just like agreements take an action of our board, once that's done, then we will go ahead and make our payment for this year.
Didn't we vote 2 years to give them the money for a 2-year membership? No?
You all really only vote 1 year of expenditures at a time.
I think what you recall, there was some discussion about a stub period because there was a delay when we were going through some issues with them, and we were like in the January, February, so there was conversation about do we pay back or do we pay forward or how that works. That was the discussion.
Okay, what we did is when we joined was late in their year,
Right.
so we only paid the remainder. I think it was maybe $5,000 to get us up to June 30th. So we could start over with a full fiscal year. Maybe that's what you're thinking of?
Yeah, I knew it was something unusual, but
So we got that done. They've now met that requirement, and we're prepared to move forward into the new year.
Are there any other questions in regards to the audit? So do you need a motion just to accept the audit?
No, really, it's informational, just to let you know that they've met the requirement.
Okay,
Was
excellent.
the important thing.
I could bring up one of the things, and I'm sure this was an enlightenment to Terry on, they talked about when they get a project in what they call the pipeline, and when it goes through the first phase of it, how many pages was the first for the first phase of it may only be 50 to 100 pages or something like that. Then as you go along, these companies want they want more detail, they have more questions, be it about whether it's about rail, highway, water, electricity, all this. And this is where Marks Nelson comes in as being a very valuable asset, because as a city, I don't think our staff could put the whole thing together maybe like they do. But Steve Etcher mentioned, like, in the end, when they have their final presentation to some of these companies, it could be 200 or 400 pages of information, correct?
That's what he
And
said, yes.
So, and I think maybe Terry was a little
I was surprised by
surprised
the
at that
volume
too.
of information.
So,
That
but
they
it is.
provide.
So I think as a city, we'll see the value that they can bring over, long haul. That's all I had to say. Area Brandy, and it was good seeing Brandy there too, because I think she got to meet all the people there and everything, and so they know that the city is all in, as you had with having both of them there. So.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I don't have anything else this evening. Thank you.
All right. Next, we'll hear from Director of Operations, Brandy Walters.
Good evening. The first thing that I have is our monthly admin report. just for a quick highlight, the special event we had this past month was the yard sale, and we had 77 participants that registered for that booklet that we give out, which is just a few more participants than what we had last year, which was pretty good. And then I also wanted to let you guys know that there will be a ribbon cutting at the new mattress store this Friday, which is at the old Hibbett Sports Building there by Walmart. This Friday, August 9th at 10:30.
All right, give that date again.
August 9th, which is this Friday at 10:30.
Questions on that?
The next thing that I have is the AP claims for this month, and it is a total of $256,000, $256,563.47.
Any questions on that report? I'll entertain a motion to approve the accounts payable in the amount of $256,563.47.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Shell Harvey, seconded by Alderman Dyer. Roll call vote.
Alderman Shell Harvey?
Yes.
Alderman Dyer?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Abstain.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0 with one abstaining.
All I have, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from the Public Works Director, Guy Jeevers.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. First item I have is the June 2019 monthly report. A few things on there is we installed a 10-inch water main from Eric Hill to well 7. Also, they're out trying to paint some fire hydrants and cleaning them up. And we had 3 sewer calls. 1 was a private and 2 was on city main. Highlights of what we're doing.
Any questions on the report?
God, what was the water quality issue? We had 2 water quality issues in June. What were those?
Those could be, and I don't know off the top of my head, but that could be anything from dirty water. So the main got stirred up, and the water, they said their water's got a discoloration in it, and that's when we go out and flush hydrants. There's a lot of places, not a lot of places, but there's places in town that are dead end lines. And then
Okay.
we'll go flush the hydrant.
So like in my neighborhood where there's new construction going on, does that cause problems sometimes?
It could when if it shouldn't be right now because most of the mains are already tapped. But if
Okay.
they're going to go tap a main and they happen to hit the main or disrupt the pipe, it knocks stuff off the inside of the pipe and stirs the water
okay.
up, and then it'll go to a faucet
Okay.
and come out dirty that way. But a lot of it is, we get a lot of them if we get a main breakage and it goes boom and it shakes everything, then it stirs everything up, and then so we'll go
Okay.
flush the hydrants and get that water out of there.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
I think we're good.
Next item I have is the request for accepting the streets at Meadows of Walnut Hollow, Plot 3. We have the installation that was inspected when they were put in, and we also have the functions that passed. So the lights out there are in working order. So I need approval for that.
Any questions on that? I'll entertain a motion to accept the street lights for Meadows of Walnut Hollow Plat 3.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Miller, seconded by Alderman Shell Harvey. Roll call vote.
Alderman,
Oops, sorry.
Is this not a bill?
Ordinance, yes.
Oh, if there's a bill later on, I didn't catch that. It's my apology. Yep, so it'll be, there's a bill later on. So, go ahead and do away with the,
Next item I have is the the bids for the sewer push camera bids. Schulte Supply came in at $9,206.92. They were not the lowest bid. Our budget amount was $10,000. We had 5 companies come out and demo their cameras, and Schulte's worked the best for what we're needing. You can actually see the picture in the screen on the sunlight. The head of the camera is more rugged, and it's also local service. So I make a recommendation to go with Schulte Supply for the push camera for $9,206.92. But it is not the low bid.
Any questions on that?
Motion we accept. Amount in the motion, 9,260. Motion by Alderman Shell Harvey, seconded by,
No, we just read this. Includes everything that's needed.
what do you want me to do, your job?
Sure.
Okay, make a motion, we award the Samra Push camera bid to Schulte Supply, option number 2, in the amount of $9,206.92, which is not the lowest bid, but it's the best.
Second that motion.
Motion made by Alderman Shaw, second by Alderman Dyer. Roll call vote.
Alderman Dyer?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Sorry about that.
It's over.
Next item I have is the proposal for professional service for the deep well at Warrior Tower. For the budget amount is $70,000. The proposal is $69,678. That's the design and the build for the well at Warrior. So that includes the engineering, bids packet, DNR permit.
This is to improve the water pressure and everything there.
That's to improve the water pressure and also take a load off of our other wells, because our other wells are also filling that tower. So with us having a well there, our other wells will run less than needed from that new well.
Are there any questions for Guy on this?
This is primarily so Cheryl's washing machine will fill quicker.
So you get wet in my shower.
You have to say the pressure.
Yes, there it is.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the Cochran proposal for professional services for the Deep Well Warrior Tower in the amount of $69,678.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Miller, second by Alderman Schultz. Roll call vote.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey?
Yes.
Alderman Dyer?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Next item I have is professional service for the City of Warrenton Water System Study and Supervised Program with Cochran Engineering in the amount of $26,450. Budget amount was $26,500. This is going to reevaluate our water system because we've gotten growth out at Orange Blossom and the interchange. So they're going to reevaluate that, including the water tower at Warrior, since we got a well there, and revisit everything that needs to be revisited. I need approval for that.
Any questions on that proposal?
Yeah, I see you're projecting future, so this would be something to look for 20 years ahead?
Yes, we're getting, yes, this is hopefully, unless the city really, but this is needed.
It's good planning, I
Yeah,
think.
this is needed.
Any questions on the proposal? I'll entertain a motion to approve the Cochran proposal for professional services of the water system study and owner supervised program in the amount of $26,450.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, seconded by Alderman Schultz. Roll call vote.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey?
Yes.
Alderman Dyer?
Mine doesn't pick up.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0 with a S at the end.
My mic's not working.
Bills to ordinance. I'll entertain a motion for the first reading of bill number 37-19.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, seconded by Alderman Shell Harvey.
Ordinance accepting the streetlights of the Meadows of Walnut Hollow Plat 3 subdivision by the city of Warrenton, Missouri.
I'll entertain a motion for the second reading and passage of bill number 37-19.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Miller, seconded by Alderman Schultz.
An ordinance accepting the streetlights of the Meadows of Walnut Hollow Plat 3 subdivision by the city of Warrenton, Missouri.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller.
Yes.
Bill passes 6-0. And I will entertain a motion to close the regular Board of Alderman meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Schultz, seconded by Alderman Dyer. Roll call vote. I'm sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are so adjourned.